Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar on the 7 steps to writing successful grant applications. Thank you for joining me and taking the time out of your day to learn about how we can write successful grant applications to grow and expand our businesses. So let's make a start. First of all, I just want to start with some basic housekeeping. Please have yourself on mute. This webinar will be recorded and you will be sent a copy later today. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please write any questions in the chat, starting with the letter Q. And because I'm using the Eventbrite platform for the ticketing, it's easy to send the emails back through that platform. So please check your junk and spam folder as well. But obviously you got your emails because some of you are on live today, and hello to the people that are watching the recording as well. So who of us here today are small business owners? Pop up your hand or pop into the chat if you are. Yes, there's a couple of you. And who is already too busy? Yes, some more hands are up. And who wears all the hats in their business? So yes, that's most of us. So we know small businesses are often not ready and don't know what is required for grant applications. The grant programs have a short application period, sometimes as little as 4 weeks, and resources and time are scarce and limited. So as we just answered before, we're already so busy wearing all the hats in the business in our wardrobe. So we've established that we're already busy and stretched to capacity. And no one wants to put even more pressure on small business owners. Again, we're too busy. But let me ask you one thing. How much free money do you think you're missing out on if we don't at least investigate the grant opportunities that might be out there? Hands up if that sounds like something of interest to you. Free money? What is she talking about? Nothing in this world is free. Well, listen up and we will explore what I mean. So if it feels too hard to be putting a grant application together, it's much easier if you've got support. So there's a lot of paperwork, there's a lot of application forms, and it can feel really overwhelming. So that's why we're here today, to learn how to write those successful grant applications. Hi, I'm Liz, the Efficiency Coach. I'm a business coach and grant writer for small business. What I'm obsessed with is making sure your business has the best opportunity to be successful. You know how there's never enough hours in the day to get that grant application written, and it's something just never gets done as it seems just way too stressful. Well, what I do is help you and your business to be ready when a grant program is released, so that you have the right tools and information at your fingertips to present your business in the best possible way. Now, I've got a bit of a geeky admission to make that I love writing grant applications. For me, it is about learning about your business. It's a way to really understand what drives you, what values you have, and why you started your business in the first place. So I've got experience in managing government grant programs, government agencies here in Australia. And I'm proud to say that I've got an 85% success rate in writing grant applications. And the reason why I've got that high success rate is because at the very beginning, when we find that grant, we have a chat about your business, what your project might be. And I'm always upfront about how strong your project or idea is for each grant program. So that means that if it's not quite fitting the criteria, or it might not match it properly, then I won't necessarily agree to writing your grant application for you or with you. I don't want to waste your time, and I don't want to waste my time either. So we're already too busy. We need to be making sure that we're efficient and effective in where we're spending our time, our focus in our business. So we need to make sure that we're doing that properly. Now, hands up if you've had a grant application not approved in the past. Now, nobody's talking about that, and this is where I'm going to help you today to take you through my proven process with my clients so that we can get more successful outcomes from our grant applications. As I said, grant applications are my thing. So allow me to work within my zone of genius while you continue to work within yours. Let's go. Now, there's no truer statement. Nothing is more expensive than a missed opportunity. And what I find when it comes to the grant ecosystem is that people just simply do not know that grants are available, that their business may be eligible, and what kind of projects and ideas can be funded through grant programs. This obviously depends on your business, the stage of business that you're at, the industry you're in, what area you live, what country you're in, and a whole lot of other factors. But once we have a chat, we can work out where to go and where to put our focus. So today's workshop is the 7 steps to writing successful grant applications. I will take you through my proven process that I've used over the last few years with my own clients. And my guarantee to you, at the end of today's workshop, you will have 7 clear steps to follow when writing grant applications. This is the process that I use with my own clients, and I know it works. And of course, being the efficiency coach, it's all about streamlining these processes, being efficient and effective of how we're writing our grant applications and what that means for our business. Success. What does success mean to you? It means different things to different people, but that's where, if we prepare properly, we can have a great result. So step 1 is preparing to be successful and getting organized. So what I mean by this is getting all the information. So when a grant program is released, normally they release the information about the program, the guidelines, the application form, and some other information that they might even send out the list of people who were successful last year or previous projects. So it's important to gather all that information from the grant program provider at the very beginning and read it thoroughly. Reading the criteria is so important because the first step we've got to do is work out whether we're eligible or not as a business, and then also making sure that our project that we're planning to apply for the funding for is eligible as well. So there's 2 factors there. And this is where we'll draft our outline. So what are we asking for money for? So when we're applying for grant applications or programs, we're asking for money more often than not. So if we were successful in getting this grant, what are we going to spend that money on? And also, what is it going to do for our business or our community group? What are going to be the benefits? And does that align with the criteria that's outlined in the guidelines? This is the very first step when it comes to thinking about writing a grant application. Now, the next step is planning out. So if you've worked out that you're eligible, you've got a project, now you need to plan out your work plan to write the application. So I use a numbered checklist of all the components required in the grant application. This means that the information, the business information, all the boxes that we need to tick, all the boxes we need to fill out, I put that into a Word document, I number it so that we can check the status of it and work with that master copy throughout the entire grant application process. Now, this is also where we need to bring our team together. So sometimes in small business, it might only be 1 or 2 of us. So we've got to work out who is going to help with writing this grant application. It might mean that you need external help, but you need to have that all-important kickoff meeting at the very beginning to say, hey, we're doing this grant. What do we need to do and who's going to do what and when? And it doesn't have to be me, but do make sure that you find someone that has experience in writing grants. It is a bit of a skill in deciphering the guidelines, working out what the keywords are and what we need to include in our application to be successful and have a strong application. So engaging a grant writer or someone with skills and knows the process that's going to help you for a good result is really important. Especially if you're trying to manage your business, you're busy, you haven't got a whole lot of time. And, as I said earlier, the grant programs are normally only open for a really short period, sometimes as little as 4 weeks. So if you're trying to run your business, you might not find out about the grant till week 1 or 2. That means you've only got 2 or 3 weeks left. So that can be not a lot of time to get a whole lot of work done on top of everything else we're already doing in our business or our community group. And if you're a community group, again, those volunteers are exactly that, volunteers. So we're doing this outside of our normal jobs or our normal businesses and trying to find the time. So having a clear work plan of who's doing what and when is really important. And this is also why I've created this into an extra step of creating, designing your own project plan. So step 3 is all about creating that detailed project plan of the grant application. So we're turning this grant application into its own project in itself. But it needs to be detailed. There is so much information that's required for a grant application. And if we miss one little detail or don't have one document to submit, they won't let us submit it into the portal. So it is really important for success and also to keep everybody on track throughout the process. I would even be, ensuring that there's someone that's the lead on this project, who's in charge, who's going to keep everyone accountable. And if you're working with me to write that grant, then that's me. I'll definitely keep you on track to make sure everyone's doing what they need to be doing, when and how. So we need to think about, how is this project going to happen? What are the components of it? And if we got the funding, how is this project going to take 3, 6, 12 months to enact? And what is involved? We need to be able to write the project plan to normally attach the grant application as well. This is where we would allocate tasks and actions to our key team members, and also planning to have the grant application finished 1 or 2 days earlier than the actual submission date. The earlier you submit it, the better, but it's a chicken and egg situation where we need time to gather the right information and give us enough time to write a good application, and also balancing we want to submit early and not be submitting at 11:55 when it closes at 11:59, our computer crashes, there's no one to ring, they won't care, and we've missed out. And all that work was for nothing. So if nothing else, it's to mitigate against any technical issues in the last minute, and trying to submit in daytime, where if something does go wrong, we can contact someone to help us out, hopefully. And also, because we're asking for money, grants, we're asking for money, we always need to know what the costs are involved as well. And this will also go back to the criteria, because it'll link back to, well, what's our project? What are we asking for? And is it within the guidelines? So sometimes you can spend more on a project than what a grant is going to give you. And that just means that your business needs to top it up and supply those funds that are extra. But again, where are you going to get that money from as well? So we need to plan all this out in the first place before we even make the application. Step 4. Now, this is one that surprises a lot of people, because all the grant programs are different. Some will ask for specific supporting documents. Some will just say, oh, attach whatever you like. And then some will also say, no, just fill out the questions and don't attach anything extra. So we need to abide by whatever they've outlined, and then be prepared to answer them just as they have asked. Think of it a bit like an exam. You do the study, so we're preparing for the grant, then we've gone to the exam and we're writing it. As soon as we walk out of the exam, it's over. We're just going to wait for our results. So it's the same process when it comes to writing grant applications. We're gathering all the information, including the supporting documents, and then we're going to write it and then just wait. So this is a really important step. And this is where my expertise of knowing what they're looking for when they're assessing it, knowing what's important, knowing what buzzwords to write and who to get involved in our application is vital. So as I said before, what's required for these grant applications? They're all different, and we need to be able to read that criteria and that guidelines in detail to make sure that we're ticking all the boxes. At this step, we think about who we're going to write letters of support for or from. So we draft these letters. So these will be other businesses, other community groups that are going to benefit in some way if this project was to go ahead. And again, we need to align this with the desired outcomes of the grant program. And getting quotes. Now, this is key, because we cannot normally submit a grant application without quotes. And sometimes I've seen a couple of grant programs where they don't ask for quotes specifically, but they do ask for a very detailed budget. And I've actually attached the quotes to show that we've actually got these numbers from external suppliers rather than just picked numbers out of the hat. Getting quotes can be a tricky situation because everyone, again, is really busy. So this is where it's really important to have built the relationships with, key stakeholders, other businesses, other community groups, and other partners that are involved in your industry and in what you do, so that when it comes to writing a grant application, you can say to them, hey, look, can you do me a quote? But I kind of need it tomorrow. Because again, we're onto a deadline. I've had times when it's been 2 days before the grant application is due to be submitted, and we're still chasing quotes. And it is the worst, because if we don't get those quotes, we cannot submit. We just cannot submit that application. And financial reports. So luckily for you, I am also a chartered accountant. And more often than not, especially for the larger grants, they ask for financial reports. Now, this can be either in the form of historical financial reports, so the last couple of years financial statements that have been submitted to the tax office. And it can also mean a budget for your whole business. So how is this project going to affect the rest of your business? And also a cash flow forecast as well sometimes, which normally have to be signed off by a chartered accountant. So if you've got zero, we can easily come up with those reports. I can sign them off as a chartered accountant, and then we can submit them, and we don't need to go near your accountant or bookkeeper. So, come to me and we're all a bit of a one-stop shop. And at this point, this is where we're getting shit done. Who do we need to liaise with? Who do we need to talk to? What do we need to gather? How do we do it? And chasing them to make sure that we've got sufficient time to be able to get our grant application sorted. Step 5. Now, this is where we actually start to write the draft application. Now, people are quite surprised that step 5 out of 7 is when we're writing the draft application. The approach I take is all the steps before that are gathering all the information, all the documents you need. So, in the previous steps, we might have drafted down a little bit, looked at the questions, thought about it, done some brainstorming. But then once we've got everything, we've got all our quotes, we've got our budget, we know our timelines, we know what our project plan looks like, then we can bring that all together and in a really efficient way, start to write our draft application and answer those questions that are in the application. Now, these can vary. I've had grant applications where for a $15,000 grant, we've had to just answer 4 questions, attach the quotes, and attach a project plan. I've had other grant applications for $25,000 where we've had to do like 20 pages of project plan, risk management plan, designs, quotes, communication plan. How is this going to affect the community, the business, all that kind of stuff. So there's no rhyme or reason why or how or what is involved in each grant application. It comes down to the grant providers and what level of information and comfort they want. Because at the end of the day, it's a competitive process. They're giving out money that does not have to be paid back, and it's to grow your business. So they want to make sure that they're getting the return on investment, that they can say, hey, that project over there for that business, we were part of that, and look at us, and then, celebrate that success as well. So this is where we go back to the key criteria, answering those questions. What are we looking at? How do we present our project in a way that people can understand? Because remember, the people on the panel that are assessing these grants, 1, they're not going to have a whole lot of time to assess them. 2, know that they know nothing about you or your business or your project. So sometimes I've had clients where they've got tripped up when they're answering the questions because they've left out the most basic of information. They've left out what their business actually does, or they've left out where their business is based. Because for them, they've been in business for years, they just know it and think everyone knows it. So this is where it's really important to make sure, 1, you're answering the question that they're asking, and you are basically answering it as well, and including all that basic information about who you are, what you do, what you stand for, and why you do what you do. This is also important to check the assessment weighting. So sometimes they might have the 4 questions and it's 25% weighting each. Sometimes it might be 30, 30, 30 and only 10% for 1 question. I don't necessarily, go, oh, well, I'm going to write less because that's only worth 10%. It's just an indication that those ones that are worth more need to have a much stronger response than the ones that are worth less. So it's more of just a guidance, but you need to present the strongest wording in your whole application, because if one part of it is lacking, that won't bring up the weightings and your score for the rest of it. And even if it's written well, but the project isn't a great project, you're not necessarily going to get across the line either. Because again, it's a competitive process. We never know who else has applied. We never know what the total funding might be. And there's a whole lot of factors as well that's all done behind closed doors. So really, we have no idea. That's why understanding the guidelines, the criteria, the outcomes that are expected, and the objectives of the grant funding are really important. And also here, we need to be checking the word and the character limit. So this is where people can come unstuck. So when you've got your Word document, and the reason why I recommend a Word document is you can save it and then you can copy and paste it into the portal. You can share it with other people as you're collating the information, and you're not at risk of losing it if something happens to your portal, which again has happened in the past. So again, we're just trying to make sure we can do this in the most stress-free way, and make sure that we're also, again, answering the questions as I've asked, sticking to the word limits, because I've also seen if you copy and paste words across to the portal and say it's got a 500 word limit and you've copied across 550 words, it'll chop off those last 50 words and you might not necessarily know. So back in your Word document, we need to be writing the question, and I always put in brackets whether there's a word limit or a character limit. So we've got a bit of a guidance from the very beginning. Now, number 6 is one of the most important steps. So we've got all the information, we've done our draft, but now we've really got to add our why and our story to make sure that our project is top of the list and gets in that approval pile. So this is where we're going to write in a persuasive way. So again, remembering the panel know nothing about you. They don't know anything about your project or your business. So, and they're only supposed to be looking at what's in your application. So, you know, sometimes you're only writing 1,000 words. So you've got to be really choosy that those words talk about the best impact of your project and why your project should be approved over others. And this is the other thing. We don't know what those other projects are. So you've really got to showcase your own project, showcase your own business, and again, showcase your ability that if you were to get the funds, that we can deliver this project. You know, especially at the moment where people can't get staff, people can't get materials, costs are going up, and we've got to make sure that whatever we're proposing, we can also deliver. And making sure at this point, we're really including the benefits to the targeted audience. So going back to the guidelines, and, you know, I've talked about those guidelines so often that what I do is I print them out. I print them out. So if I'm on the computer or whatever, I can have them in my hand and go, yes, have we covered all that off? What are my buzzwords? I've gone through with a highlighter. I rewrite the guidelines back into my questions and I answer them as simply and basically as I possibly can to make sure that we haven't missed anything. So that's why this step in here is really important, to go through your draft application, make sure you've included everything that they've asked for, and that you have written your project information the best way you can to demonstrate the most impact on the grant program objectives, because that's really what they are scoring you against. So that brings us to step 7, the final step. Now, I always get someone else to review my grant applications. Quite often that will be the client. So one, I get them to review what I've written, to check the facts of the information, make sure that I haven't said anything in there that's not going to happen or isn't quite right, and that it's all in alignment and the right supplier, the right information, the right benefits, the right statistics, all that kind of stuff. Also getting them to check the grammar as well. And at the end of the day, I'm a bit of a ghostwriter. Well, I am. My name is not going on this application. You as a business owner and as the applicant, you become the contact. There are the odd instances where I might be the contact, but more often than not, the people on the panel have no idea that I've written it, and it is the business owner who is the applicant. So they need to make sure that they're happy with what they've sent, because their questions, if there's any questions from the panel, they'll come back to them. If there's any questions about the application, they will come back to them. So obviously I'm here to support you, but at the end of the day, it's your name as the business owner as the applicant on the grant application. And again, I can't stress this enough, trying to press submit ideally 1 or 2 days before the deadline. Now, some grant programs, they do a first in, first served. That's becoming less common at the moment. Now there is a hard deadline, and then they will start their full review of all applications once that deadline is closed. So, but we don't want to be the last one. We don't want to have any unforeseen tech issues because there'll be no one to call and no one will care. If you haven't got your application in, tough bickies, especially now that there is all these application portals where you have a login, you sign in. So you can't even send by email. They won't accept them. So again, that's all in the guidelines, and we need to make sure that we're following those rules best we can. And I always say we need to celebrate, because writing a grant application in itself is a massive feat. So just look through all the work that we've done to, we've answered questions about our business. We've had to think about stuff. There'll be strategy in there. There'll be business planning in there throughout all the process. And it is such a feat to even submit that application. So going back to the exam, you've finished it, you've submitted, go and celebrate, and then sort of forget about it until you find out whether you're successful or not. Because at the end of the day, there's nothing we can do about it. Done and dusted. It is all in the preparation and everything before we press submit. And you know what? Even I find it nerve-wracking to press the submit button. Some clients will say, oh, no, I'll review it and I'll do it. Others will say, no, you do it. So, that's, we all get nervous because you've got one chance. You've got to make sure it's all the right documents and all that kind of stuff. The final version is the one that's uploaded, and it's really, really important. So there we go. There are my 7 steps to writing successful grant applications. We started with the preparation, reading those guidelines. Then we did some planning. Then we created and designed our project and the whole grant application. We then collated our supporting documents, and then we started writing. Then we added our why, and then we did our review and we submitted and celebrated as well. So what was your biggest takeaway from today? If you can pop that in the chat. And if you have any questions, also pop them in the chat with the capital Q. So I'd really love to hear what your biggest learning was. Was there something that surprised you that you weren't aware of? Anything that you thought was, different or you disagree with or anything like that? I'd love to hear from you in the chat. The most common one that I've found is, as I said before, is that writing the application isn't till step 5. A lot of people say, oh, I just find a grant and I just start writing it, and then I kind of lose momentum on it, and then it all gets too overwhelming and stressful, and then the deadline's gone and they haven't actually submitted it. So again, we're just wasting our time. And with grants, if you haven't submitted, you're not going to be in to win. So, it's very hard to review a grant application that has not been submitted at all. So, just something to be mindful of. We can find the grants. And the other thing is, a lot of people don't have projects. So yes, we can find a grant. And if there's a 4 or 6 week grant opening period, if you've got to develop a project plan and actually work out what you would spend the money on, that's not much time either, and run your business. So we just need to keep that in mind. So question there, yes, at what point do you follow up the result? Now, this is a good one. Quite often in the guidelines, it will say, the period, it'll say we're going to take 8 weeks or 12 weeks or whatever the period is to review them. Most of the ones I deal with are government, and sometimes they're not great at, there'll be no communication. You'll get an email to say you've submitted it, which will be an automated response from the system. I always pop into my diary when they indicate that they're going to give an outcome, and also take note of the email address. So normally around whatever, if they've said 8 weeks, which is pretty standard, I would email them probably after 9 weeks if I haven't heard anything, check on their socials and just keep following up. But yeah, that you won't get a response if it's within whatever they said. So if we emailed them at week 7, they're not going to respond. So yeah, once it's hit, and normally there are sometimes can be delays. It just depends on what's going on. But it is important to know who you're contacting. And you know, when we write grants for business owners, I make sure I give them all that information. They've got a copy of what we submitted, the dates of when we are expecting a result, and then going from there. Awesome question. Thank you. So some other questions that I quite often get asked, and if you do have any other questions, please pop them in the chat. Where do I find grants for business? So I'm based in Australia, here in Melbourne, and the ones that I use the most, some of them are paid ones. So they're directories and you pay a subscription to have access to them where you can go and search for your grants. So the Grants Hub is a good one. Business Victoria has got all the state government grants listed on there. Same with Business Australia, that'll have all the federal and Australian grants. Grant Guru is another paid subscription for a directory, and same as Grants Ready. So there where you can buy your subscription and you can, you know, type in your search criteria, save that as an alert, and when a grant comes up, you'll get an email. Are there any grants to help me start a business? Now, this is an interesting one because when we're starting a business, we really have to invest in ourselves and in our own business. Remember, the government or whoever's giving out the grants want that return on investment, and they want to also make sure that they're giving it to a worthy applicant that has proven that they can run a business and be successful. So the short answer to this is normally there are not any grants to start a business per se. There are, however, startup programs, incubator programs where you might be involved in a 12-week program, which you might not have to pay any money, but obviously you're paying with your time. So that's one form of a grant to learn how to do business, to learn how to take your product or service to a minimal viable product and how to take it to market, but also testing your market, testing your idea in the first place. But yeah, normally there are no cash grants to start a business. How are grants assessed? Spoke about this a little bit. It differs from program to program, and we never actually know. They never, apart from handing out the weighted assessment from the questions, they never really give out the scorecard. So we've just got to make sure that we can glean as much information as we can from the guidelines. We can have a look at what other projects have been approved in the past, and we can also make sure that we answer the questions as it's asked, using our buzzwords and making sure that we're explaining our project in really basic terms so that we can have the best chance of a good assessment. And because what we want to do is have to have the panelists understand our project exactly as it should be, not having to interpret or having a different understanding from what we are presenting. So here are some businesses that I've helped with successful grant applications. And as you can see, the industries vary. You know, it doesn't matter what industry you're in or what stage of business you're at. There are grants out there. We just have to find them. And more often than not, I don't know if it's manifestation or just the universe, but when you put it out there that we're looking for grants, quite often we will find them. I've developed a Grants Club VIP membership for businesses to come into, to be part of my membership where I will search for grants for them. One client who joined last week, I found her a grant on the first day. So, you know, that was really exciting. And she just never looked, you know, she didn't know if she was eligible. You know, she went through the process, signed up, we got the business information. I had a quick look and found one right there and then. So it's super exciting. And I'll touch on my membership a little bit at the end. So what is the difference between these businesses receiving grants and your business? Are you looking for grants? Do you even know where to look? Or do you know what kind of grants your business needs? You know, some businesses that are more service-based might not necessarily need to invest in any equipment. If you're a manufacturing business, there's always machines and more efficient equipment that could make your process and your life easier. So sometimes it's easier for those types of businesses to find grants because they're a tangible thing. So sometimes we've got to get creative. You know, is it for marketing? Is it to do your business plan? Is it to touch up on your technical skills or whatever it might be? When we start looking, we find grants are out there. We just don't know about them because, you know, sometimes the grants program facilitators are not widely advertising them. If they know they're going to be popular, they won't be advertised far and widely, because then that means more work for them. So, you know, it's a bit of a situation where we need to go and hunt for these grants. And that's why I say that there is a hidden economy when it comes to grant funding. And that's what I'm here to change. And that's why I've created my membership for businesses to be able to access that funding and grow their business as a result. So what are my clients saying? Anna and Yulia have a wedding venue, and they are a great couple. They're both creative, so full of ideas, full of energy, but when it comes to keeping them on track, I really had to make sure that I was checking in with them every couple of days to make sure that we got those grant applications submitted on time, which we did. Chris ended up with a $25,000 grant for a cool room for his farm shop. So that meant that he was becoming more efficient, less trips to the butcher to go and pick up the meat. And when people came into the shop, the rustic shop, you know, at his farm gate, there was a big flash fridge freezer, just like at the supermarket. And it made him look much more professional. So that was a really good grant to get. And Ben and Jessie, clients of mine, turned their side hustle into a full-time business with a business grant that they didn't even know about. And we worked on together, including for that one, we actually also had to submit a business plan. So, you know, we wrote the grant application and the business plan all at the same time in about 3 weeks. But they were approved for a $27,000 grant that allowed them to turn into a full-time business, which was always their plan, but probably 5 years away at least. And, you know, we did it within a year. So that was really exciting. So I will show you how I can help you and your business to grow and expand with business grants. I am proud to announce that I have launched my online masterclass, How to Write Effective Grant Applications. And it is running this September. It's online, so anyone in the world can join. I'm here in Melbourne, so it's from 10 till 3 on these days. So the 17th is a Saturday and Tuesday, the 20th of September. So if you've enjoyed what you've learned today, in this masterclass, I will share my in-depth proven process of effective grant writing and a step-by-step approach using real-life examples. We will go through the pitfalls. We'll make you aware of what not to do and what to do. So this is my approach to how I write effective grant applications, but using real-life examples. And at the end of the masterclass, you will have skills and the steps to be able to write effective grant applications for your organization. It will enhance your understanding of how best to approach writing grant applications. It's designed for small business and also community group committee members. It's for you. So I will take a more in-depth process of writing grant applications. It'll be an interactive workshop using real-life examples. And we will share practical tips and hints to make grant writing stress-free and things to avoid along the way. And Marie has popped in the ticket link into the chat as well. And there will be workshops and resources will be provided to enhance your learning. Who is this masterclass for? Those who want to enhance their grant writing skills. So you could be a business owner, your team members or your project managers, community group committee members. Now, when it comes to grant writing, my belief is it doesn't matter what organization you're from, whether it be a not-for-profit, a social enterprise, a for-profit business, a sole trader, a company, a partnership. We're all doing business, whether we're trying to make money or not, or providing a service or a benefit to the community. The process is the same. It's just the content and what you are writing about and what you're wanting funding for will be different. So I can't stress that enough, that this is for anybody that's a business owner, anyone within their team, and also community group committee members as well. So when is the masterclass? As I said, Saturday, 17th of September or Tuesday, the 20th of September. The offerings are exactly the same. I just wanted to offer a weekend option for people who, might not be able to take time out during their working week. If people are volunteers or on those committees, or even just business owners where, Saturdays sometimes can be a bit of downtime. It will be recorded. So that's, if you buy a ticket, it will be recorded and you'll have access to that as well. As I said, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. We will be stopping for a lunch break because I'm a big believer of we need to, take on the information in small bites and using real life examples. But we also need to have the time to be able to answer questions, ask questions, work with each other and learn from each other as well. So it is 10 till 3 Melbourne time. And each ticket is for 1 or 2 people from the same organisation. So you and your team member can come. If you're a husband and wife team in the same business, you can both come so that you can learn together and feed off each other, because you'll both be taking in different information. You might have different skill sets within the business, and bringing those skill sets together to learn together is really, really important. So I've got a webinar special today. It's normally $4.97 per ticket. So as I said, that's for 1 or 2 people from the same organisation. But if you use this discount code with Eventbrite, Early Bird 2022, for $50 off, making it $447. And there's the link there, which is also in the chat, to purchase your ticket. So it's a few weeks away. If you're free those days, I'd love to have you join me. I'll just not leave that on the screen for a little bit. But it is an extension of this webinar where we will go through each of the steps in depth using real life examples. And, at the end of it, you will have the confidence to be able to write grant applications for yourself. And we'll go through, what does a letter of support look like? What do we need on the quotes? What can we do before a grant comes out to prepare us as well? So I'll just pop the dates back on there. Saturday, 17th of September or Tuesday, the 20th of September. These links for the event will also be emailed out. They are the same offering. So if you come to either, you're getting exactly the same delivery. You're not missing out. They're no different. They're both online, delivered via Zoom, and I am excited. So remember the discount code, Early Bird 2022 for $50 off the ticket price. So who could you bring along with you to the masterclass? That's something to think about. And as I've mentioned earlier, I have a Grants Club VIP membership where businesses sign up with me to be part of my ecosystem, and I will match you with grants, and I guarantee that if I don't match a grant to you that you're eligible for, I will refund your membership fee. But the best thing is, if you join my Grants Club membership, there's masterclasses each quarter, so at least 4, and there'll probably be more because we've gone into planning mode and our ideas are going crazy. So there'll be at least 4 over the 12-month membership. And if you're in my Grants Club membership, this masterclass that I've just spoken about is completely free. So it's completely included. So if you think about it, 4 masterclasses at $4.97 is more than the cost of the Grants Club membership. So for more details and to join my Grants Club membership, check out my website. I'd love to have you in your business to help you to be your personal grants advisor. I will gather your business information, search for grants for you, and then help you write them as well, if that's where we want to go. So I'm excited for the Grants Club membership. As I said earlier, one person that joined last week, I found them a grant on the very first day. So how cool is that? I also have my free Facebook group called the Efficient Business Community, where you can connect with like-minded businesses. I will be sharing tips and tricks on efficiencies in that group. And Maria's popped in the links into the chat as well. And if you're on the recording, that will be on the email as well. So there's also the QR code there that you can pop your phone up to. So I'd love to have you in that private Facebook group where we can share with other like-minded businesses, how we become efficient and how we can grow and expand our businesses. So today's webinar offer could not be easier. So we've got the Masterclass coming up in September. I would love to see you there. That would be amazing. So let's get started today and let's start working together. I love this quote: luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity, and it could not be truer when it comes to applying for grants. As today is showing, we need to get everything ready. We need to get our ducks in a row. We need to be ready. We need to know what we're doing. How are we going to grow our business so that when a grant comes up, we're ready to go and we can make that application in time and not stressed out. So thank you for joining me today. And if you do want to get in touch, head to my website. If you're in Australia, there's my phone number, or flick me an email and we can connect and go from there. So thank you very much. Have a great day. And I look forward to seeing some of you on my masterclass later on in September. Thank you.